All right, let's get started. So my name is Paul Wolf. I serve as president of the New York Coalition for Open Government, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to addressing transparency issues in government. We've released a variety of reports over the years focusing on the Freedom of Information Law and the Open Meetings Law. And today, we're releasing a report regarding County Board of Elections that we took a look at across New York State. So what we did for this study is we took a look at 19 County Board of Elections, and we focused on the larger counties population-wise. We didn't do the top 19. We made a couple adjustments just to make sure that every area of the state was covered, but by and large, the 19 we looked at are the top 20 or so population-wise in the state. And what we did was we first started with by contacting Board of Elections to ask them for information regarding do they hold meetings, how often do they hold meetings, do they provide public notice of those meetings, and do they keep minutes of those meetings? And that attempt, which was made by phone calls and emails, got a pretty poor response. As we indicated in our report, 65% of the election boards that we contacted by phone or email simply did not respond. So after we got such a bad response, we said, well, I guess we'll have to file a FOIL request. So we looked at the New York State Board of Elections, which has a website, and they list information for each county board. I thought the easiest way to do this was just to simply pull the email addresses off the New York State Board of Elections website and send our FOIL request, which we did in July. So a couple months ago now. And as probably most of you know, by law, when a FOIL request is sent, the local government public body is supposed to respond in writing within 5 business days. So we tracked that. And again, pretty poorly, 73% of the election boards that we sent a FOIL request to did not acknowledge our request within 5 business days. And, a few did acknowledge it timely, which we indicated in the report. A few were late, but amazingly, 10 election boards just never acknowledged our FOIL request. So we sent a second FOIL request about a month later in August. And for that second FOIL request, 6 boards did not even acknowledge the second request, which is a failure rate of like 32%. So at the end of the day, we received meeting minutes from 10 of the 19 boards that we requested, which is a success rate of 53%, and a pretty pitiful success rate. One of the responses we received just came in on Friday, so like 6 or 7 months after our request. So just a terrible, terrible response by election boards across, county election boards across the state in regards to 2 FOIL requests that were sent. So we have a couple recommendations, which we list in the report. First one being, the time has come to create an entity which has power to enforce violations of the Freedom of Information Law and Open Meetings Law. New York does not have any entity with enforcement powers. Other states do, as we mentioned in the report. In Connecticut, there's a commission that has the authority to render decisions, to impose fines. In the state of Massachusetts, the public can contact the Attorney General. The Attorney General has the power to investigate and to impose fines. Sadly, as a result of this report, with 53% compliance, there will be no consequences. There will be no penalties. There will be no punishment. All we can do is try to embarrass people to try to comply with the law. And frankly, we're getting a little tired of now several years of issuing report after report of non-compliance with the law. The time really has come to create an entity with enforcement powers. The New York State Committee on Open Government released their annual report in December, and they likewise have said the time has come for the state legislature to explore creating enforcement powers. And we have a governor that is claiming to make transparency the highlight of her administration. Well, that's true. Then the governor needs to get behind creating enforcement powers as well.
Our social media and
somebody needs to mute themselves. So the second recommendation that we've made is that training needs to be provided to County Board of Elections and the New York State Board of Elections, and whether that can be done by the state board, the Committee on Open Government, but clearly they're not understanding complying with the law as far as FOIL requests go. Third recommendation, amend the law to make it clear that election commissioners must conduct their business in public. There are 2 election commissioners typically for most counties, and in order for anything to happen, they need to agree. Instead of meeting, what they typically do is we'll sign off in writing on conducting business, and that needs to change. Several commissioners, as we acknowledged in our reports, they state that they do meet, but they don't provide public notice. They don't post meeting minutes, although it should be pointed out at the time this report was done, the law did not mandate the posting of meeting minutes, but that law has since been changed. So in the future, all County Board of Elections should be posting their meeting minutes. But there's several bad court decisions from 40 years ago that state that Board of Elections don't necessarily need to meet to conduct business, everyday business. We think those court decisions need to be addressed by changing the law. But in any event, the New York State election law requires that boards meet at least annually to decide who's going to serve as president of the board, who's going to serve as secretary of the board. And it appears those meetings either aren't happening or public notice isn't being provided of those meetings in many instances, and there's no meeting minutes in many instances. When we file a FOIL request for meeting minutes, we should have got a response from 19 of the 19 boards of at least their annual meeting minutes, but we didn't even get that. Next recommendation for change is amend the open meetings law to require commissioners to deliberate in public. There is an exception in the open meetings law for what they call quasi-judicial hearings. And quasi-judicial matters don't need to be discussed in public. The decision that's been made needs to be made in public, but the deliberations can happen in private. But that open meetings law contains 2 interesting exceptions. A couple years ago, it was amended that zoning boards must deliberate in public and the Public Service Commission must deliberate in public. I don't know where that stems from. I can only imagine that people got upset about their local zoning boards deliberating in private about projects that were of community interest. Well, if we can make an exception for zoning boards, we can make an exception for election boards as well. So the state law should be amended to mandate that when election boards are deliberating regarding election challenges, petition challenges, that those deliberations occur in public. Next recommendation is that the public should be provided the opportunity to comment at Board of Election meetings. So again, a lot of times the public isn't even aware that these meetings are occurring. They need to be notified, and there should be an opportunity. Election administration is obviously an important issue in this country, this state, and there should be an opportunity for the public to weigh in on what's happening at their election boards. And the final recommendation is that Board of Election meetings should be live streamed with recordings posted online afterwards. The state legislature has mandated that industrial development agencies do this a couple years ago. And again, the same thing should and can be done for election boards. So basically the conclusion of our report is that compliance with the Freedom of Information Law, the Open Meetings Law, is minimal when it comes to County Board of Elections. So that's kind of an overview of the report. I'm happy to take any questions that people may have. So if you could either raise your hand or unmute yourself, we'll see if we could try to do this orderly.
I guess I have a few questions if I can.
Sure.
Great, thanks. So first I was wondering how you chose the 19 counties that were part of this. And then I guess I also wanted to know what you're doing with these recommendations. Have you sent them anywhere in an official capacity? Have you discussed potential measures with members? That, you know, is there support for this to do something with this kind of thing?
Sure. So the 19 that we selected, we picked largely just based on population. I printed out a list of New York state counties by population, took a look at that list, and just tried to make sure that we hit every region of the state. You know, there's like 8 or 9 or 10 different regions of the state, and just wanted to make sure that we covered all areas. So it was just randomly picked based on region and population. As far as sending the report, I plan to send it to the New York State Legislature. I'll certainly contact the chairs of the election committees in the Senate and the Assembly and encourage them to enact the legislation that we're recommending. I will also be sending it to the county election boards that were in this report so that they can be made aware of it and hopefully make changes going forward. Anyone else?
So are you going to send this to the governor's office as well? And then when do you think you will send them by? I don't know how soon.
Yes, to the governor's office as well. Try to get it done in the next day or two.
And fine, if I can, one more follow, thank you. If so have you had any other discussions with lawmakers or any legislative leaders about this kind of issue in the last several months or leading up to this session? And I'm just curious if you've heard any response, if anyone is interested in support for this kind of reform.
A couple months ago, the legislature held some hearings. I believe it was the Assembly Elections Committee. Our organization did submit written testimony mentioning that this report was not completed, but mentioning some of the recommendations that are contained in the report. But other than that, have not had any discussions with folks about the recommendations.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Sure. Anyone else?
Paul?
Yes.
Tom Prohaska from the Buffalo News. Do you think that you didn't get meeting minutes from these boards of elections because there are no meeting minutes? Or do you think that they have minutes that they're sitting on?
I think it's probably because they don't have meeting minutes. I assume now there are several boards that just didn't respond, so I don't really know. But I think the sense I get is that boards are operating really without conducting meetings. You know, the two commissioners are just signing off in writing on what's being done. And, you know, I have great concerns about that, just having two people behind closed doors, you know, making decisions regarding contracts or hiring or just election administration in general. This really needs to be done in the light of day so that the public can see.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Me,
Maria?
Paul,
Yes.
yeah, hi, Paul, good morning, everybody. I just want to echo your sentiments. I was just amazed at the zoning and the Public Service Commission. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Maria Tisby. The Zoning and Public Service Commission can deliberate, have to deliberate in public, and that the election board doesn't, because to me, it seems like it just gives them more impetus to say they're above the law. And I think that should also be where the public can attend and the public can ask questions. And furthermore, the budget from the Board of Elections in Erie County obviously comes from the Erie County Legislature. So if at the very least, I think the legislatures in your district should have access to minutes and things like that. I've asked for a couple of things, and each time they've been told, oh, that's the Board of Elections. Oh, they keep their own records. Oh, that's a whole separate entity. And so I think all those things put together just seems to put them in a forefront to see that they're above the law. And I think the public needs to attend those minutes, those meetings that they don't hold, and have a copy of the minutes that they don't have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Somebody.
Yeah, Paul, I
Yes.
do have a quick question for you. In your report, the full report, do you outline like which counties did what? You know, like the, a certain county did respond, another county didn't respond, that sort of thing.
I do, and you should have, is this Mr. Stafford asking?
Yes. Yes.
I did, you should have got a copy of the report at 10:30 as well. I saw that you emailed me looking for it, so if you
Okay,
haven't gotten it.
I'm not sure that I did get that copy. I'll look again, but
Okay.
yeah, you can just forward that to me. I'm Stafford at Observer Today.
Yeah, it is laid out in the report, who responded, who didn't, what dates they responded by.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Someone from Messenger Papers has a question.
Yes, hi, Nicole, Messenger Papers, Suffolk County on Long Island. The first question was, how do I obtain a copy of the report? I'll just email you,
Sure.
I'm guessing. Okay, and then the second question was, I may have missed it, I had joined a little late. As far as the oversight committee organ body that you're speaking of in your recommendation, how do you foresee that being formed? Who would be members on that committee, and like the operational side of it, how would that be?
Sure. That would certainly have to be worked out with legislation through the state legislature. I know, similar to the New York State Committee on Open Government, there would probably be appointments from the governor, the assembly, the Senate. I think the New York State Committee on Open Government needs to be restructured, quite honestly, and have appointments from other state elected officials as well. But it would have to be a body certainly formed by state law, and we'll have to work out the details of who would be on that body. But I think it's important that it have representation similar to the New York State Committee on Open Government from the news media and others. So it could be simply empowering the New York State Committee on Open Government or creating a completely new entity.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Going once. Marnie, you have a question.
Yes, hi. So how can community activists facilitate, this very important issue, where, zoning meetings, I live in Chelsea. In 2019, the mayor had a Chelsea NYCHA working group. And I actually wrote about this for some community newspapers, but those meetings were completely held in private. There's so many working groups. There's a lot of like sort of quote unquote working groups for, different zoning projects. Also the privatization of public housing, and all those meetings are completely like done in secret. And even if you're a stakeholder, you don't always get invited. You can't actually go to those meetings. You have to be quote unquote invited. And if you're on the right side of people, you're completely shunned. And you can't get in. Even when we tried to get in to the mayor's NYCHA group, there were police there that like we couldn't even get in because they made sure that we didn't get in. So how can community activists or just ordinary citizens help this process? Because it's so very important.
Thank you. Great question. Well, we have to first start by drawing attention to it, shining a light on this problem. So certainly the hope today is various media outlets will report on this issue. Sometimes public attention embarrasses people to make changes and do the right thing. But certainly all of us as citizens can contact their county board of elections and just stress the importance of complying with the law. So we need more people to become aware that this is a problem, more people to speak up about it, more people to file perhaps FOIL requests, or just to in their own way draw attention that the public should be aware of these meetings. And ultimately it may be litigating some of this. I think I'm getting more and more of the mindset that we're going to have to start filing some more lawsuits just to force people to understand they need to comply with the law. So hopefully with all of those things, we can, start bringing about some positive changes.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? All right, I think we'll end it there then. I appreciate you all having an interest in this. Appreciate you all attending. My email, hopefully everyone has, is Paul Wolf, WOLF2, just the number 2, paulwolf2@gmail. If you need any, if you have any further questions or need further information, please let me know. Thanks.